Hello everybody, it's Foxy speaking, and welcome to another episode of Foxy's Fun Inspirational Chats, and today I will be your host. In this story, this is about a man, and his name was Tony Wilbert, who lived very, very close to an orchard within his home village. Tony Wilbert, who was a retired man and lived at home in a village with his longtime wife, Marion. Tony and Marion Wilbert, a happily married couple who just loved and were just enshrined and ingrained with visiting an orchard. A very pretty little orchard which was located not in a village within their locality. This was only about a 5 or 10 minute walk away from them, this orchard. Absolutely enchanting, the orchard they lived not too far from. An orchard where there were apple trees, pear trees, and peach trees as well. All the trees in the orchard only consisted of growing 3 fruits. When they were ready to pick, they would always see people piling them into sacks, ready to be taken to be sold to the shops and the markets and the towns and the cities. Oh, did Tony and Marion love the village? Oh, did Tony and Marion love the orchard they used to visit? They would never tire of visiting the pretty little orchard. One day it was cloudy, but not rainy. But in case of any rain, Tony and Marion had put their coats on. "Oh, you know, my dear," Tony once said as he sighed happily, "this orchard, I hope, remains for many, many more years, even when we are gone." Marion gave out a slight chuckle. "Oh, I hope so too, my dear love Tony," Marion responded as she ended up leaning her head against his shoulder. "Let's hope it's always here for thousands of years." Looking at his long-lasting wife, being married for a long time, looking at her leaning affectionately on his shoulder, Tony could not help but kiss her on the head as they began to walk. Arms embraced around each other, just walked carefully together into the orchard, observing all the fruit trees that were to be seen in the orchard. After about 15-20 minutes they decided to go home, in case of any potential rain. So they went home and put the telly on to watch some television. They had their dinner, then after dinner they watched the evening news on their television. Once the evening news was over, they put on an old black and white film. Once the black and white film was over, by the time it was about 10 p.m. in the evening, they both walked upstairs, brushed their teeth, got into their pyjamas and went to bed. As they were already fast asleep and out Zotto into their dreams when, boom, 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 a fierce storm was gathering within the village. The winds gusted at a violent whistling speed. Leaves were blown over and the roads were just covered in nothing but greenery, which were leaves from the trees. Then, here comes the trouble. 2 trees in the village orchard were blown over by the gust of wind, and one was struck by lightning. But little did Tony and Marion know about the storm, as they were just fast asleep. All Tony and Marion dreamt of were tall fruitful trees in orchards, with more orchards to come in the future. Before long it was morning. Tony yawned and stretched, got out of bed, put on his slippers, picked up his dressing gown from his door peg in the bedroom, put it on, and to draw the curtains. As he drew the curtains, he looked through the window and he could hardly believe his eyes. The street in the village was just almost covered completely in leaves. Nothing but covered with leaves, almost within its entirety. And the dustbin was just blown over with the sacks of rubbish, once loaded in, scattered across the pavement. The light from the window shone upon Marion, which forced her to wake up from her dream. She yawned and stretched with exhaustion since she enjoyed her last night's dreams. She slowly trundled over to the window Tony was observing, until she saw she had the same shock as Tony, her husband. How could something like this happen? Tony asked his wife rhetorically. In response, Marion said, "It was a storm, Tony, love." A storm is violent, and a storm can be bad. After they had washed and got dressed and had their breakfast and their morning cups of teas, they went outside to observe the damage done by the storm. They gasped in shock. The storm did some damage, some immense damage. Let's just hope the village was all right and weathered the storm okay, Tony said to himself. As both Tony and Marion walked into the village, they could hardly believe their eyes. The orchard, once an enchanting and pretty-looking orchard, now looked so messy, with 3 of its trees blown over, and all the fruit, not even ripened yet, had fallen onto the floor, all bruised and battered. "This is going to be bad for the market and shopping businesses," Tony said sadly. Tony and Marion were just most upset. They went back home for lunch, but neither one of them, they just could not help what would be the fate of the future of their local village orchard. Many, many months had passed, and when they were watching the news on the television, the news spoke of a special event in the orchard. Both of whom were excited. After they turned off the telly, after the news, speaking of the orchard event being located in their local village orchard, they just had to plan to go over. The days soon passed, and the orchard event had came. The orchard was once again looking enchanted and pretty like it almost once did, but there was an even bigger surprise to Tony and Marion. The fruit trees which survived the storm managed to regrow the fruit they were originally planting, or growing, not only just better, but even better than they'd imagined, and they were ripe. People were able to freely pick the fruit because they were ripe. Tony and Marion just had to dig in with picking the fruit from the fruitful trees. After they picked as many fruit as they could, they put it in a bag of theirs, a carrier bag. "Oh, because of the storm," Tony said to his wife, "the orchard is now brightening after the lightning." Marion just could not agree with her husband, both of whom were just so happy to see their local village orchard springing back into life after such a ghastly storm that very evening before. Both of whom just could not have been happier to have seen a more blossoming and blissful and brighter orchard springing into life after such trouble. The end. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video, everybody. Please let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and I shall certainly see you in the next video. Bye bye, everybody. From Foxy.